young to reign in his stead, in his name called the Euphrates. About this time they were in the tower, shut up Israel round about the sanctuary, and sought always their hurt, and the strengthening of the heathen. Wherefore Yehuda, purposing to destroy them, called all the people together to besiege them. So they came together and besieged them in the 150th year, and he made mounts for shots against him, and other engines. Howbeit certain of them that they were besieged got forth, unto whom some wicked men of Israel joined themselves. And they went to the king, and he said, How long will it be? How long will it be ere you execute judgment and avenge our brethren? We have been willing to serve your father, and to do as he would have us, and to obey his commandments, for which cause of our nation besieged the tower, and all the alienation from us. Moreover, as many of us as they could light on, they slew, and the spoil of our inheritance. Neither have they stretched out their hand against us only, but against our borders. And behold, this day they are besieging the tower at Jerusalem to take it. The sanctuary also and Bethsura have they fortified. Wherefore, if you do not prevent them quickly, they will do greater things than these. Neither shall you be able to rule them. Now, when the king heard this, he was angry, and he gathered together all his friends and the captains of his army, and those that had charge of the horse, and came also unto him other kingdoms from far isles of the sea, bands of hired soldiers. So the number of his army was 100,000 footmen, and 20,000 horsemen, and 32 elephants exercised in battle. And these went through Edom and pitched tents against Bethsura, and they assaulted many days, making engines of war. And they of Bethsura came out and burned them with fire, and fought valiantly. Upon this Yehuda removed from the tower and pitched in Beth-Zeriachu over against the king's camp. And the king, rising up very early, marched fiercely with his host toward Beth-Zeriachu and his armies, and he made them ready to battle, and sounded the shofars, and to the end that they might provoke the elements to fight. And they showed them the blood of grapes and mulberries. Moreover, they divided the beast among the armies. For every elephant being appointed 1,000 men, armed with coats of mail, with helmets of brass on their heads. And besides this, for every beast were ordained 500 horsemen of the best. And they were ready at every occasion, wheresoever the beast was, and wheresoever the beast went, and they went also. Neither departed they from him. And upon the beast were there strong towers of wood, which covered every one of them, and were girded fast into the devices. Were also upon every one 32 strong men that fought upon them, besides the Indian that ruled them, as the remnant of the horsemen, and set us on the side and the side at the 2 parts of the host, giving them signs what to do, and being harnessed all over in the midst of the ranks. Now when the sun shone upon the shields of gold and brass, the mountains glistered there within, and shine like lamps of fire. So the part of the king's army being spread upon the high mountains and upon the valleys below, they marched on safely in order. Wherefore, and they all that heard the noise of the multitude, and the marching of the company, and the rattling of the harnesses, they moved, for the army was a great and mighty, were very great and mighty. Then Yehuda and his host drew near and entered into the battle. And there were slain of the king's army 600 men. Eleazar also surnamed Savarian perceived that one of the beasts, armed with royal harnesses, was higher than all the rest, and supposing that the king was upon him, put himself in jeopardy to the end that he might deliver his people and get him a perpetual name. Wherefore he ran upon courageously through the midst of the battle, slaying on the right hand and on the left hand, and they that were divided from him on both sides, which done, he crept under the elephant and thrust him under and slew him. Whereupon the elephant fell down upon him, and there he died. Howbeit the rest of Yehudim, seeing the strength of the king and the violence of his forces, turned away from them. And the king's army went up to Jerusalem to meet with them. And the king pitched his tents against Yehuda and pitched his tents against Yehuda and against Mount Zion. But them that were in Bethsura he made peace, for they came out of the city, because they had no victuals to endure the siege, it being a year of rest of the land. So they took Bethsura and a garrison there to keep it as the sanctuary, and besieged it many days, and set there artillery and engines and instruments to cast fire and stones, and pieces to cast spears and slings. Whereupon they also made engines against their engines, and held them in battle a long season. Yet at the last their vessels being without victuals, for that was the 7th year, and they in Yehuda that had delivered from the other people had eaten up the remnant of the store. So this was at the end of the Shemitah year. So they had gone through their supplies. Remember, you couldn't plant or reap during these Shemitah years, and here they were going through it, and it was also a battle taking place. Yehuda that had delivered from them, and the other people had eaten up a remnant of the store. And there were but a few in the sanctuary, because of the famine did so prevail against them. And they were fain to disperse themselves, every man to his own place. At the time Lysias heard say that Philip, whom Antiochus the king, while he lived, had appointed to bring up his son Antiochus, that he might be a king, and was returned out of Persia and Medan, and the king's host also went with him, and he sought to take them the ruling of the affairs. Wherefore he went in all haste, and said to the king and all his captains and of the host that in company, we decay daily, and our victuals are but small, and the place we lay siege unto is strong, and the affairs of the kingdom lie upon us. Now therefore let us be friends with these men, and make peace with them with all their nation, and a covenant with them that they should live after their Torah as they did before. For as they were before displeased, and have done all these things, because we abolished their Torah. So the king and the princes were content. Wherefore he sent unto them to make peace, and they accepted thereof. And the king and the princes made an oath unto them, where they went out of the stronghold. And the king entered to Mount Zion, where he saw the strength of the place. He broke his oath that he had made, and given commandment to pull down the wall round about. Afterward departed he in all haste, and returned to Antioch, where he found Philip to be master to the city. So he fought against him, and took the city by force. Chapter 7. In the 150th year, Demetrius, son of Seleucus, departed from Rome, and came up with a few men unto the city of the sea coast, and reigned there. And he entered to the palace of the ancestors So it was that his forces had taken Antiochus and Lysias to bring them unto him, wherebefore when he had knew it, he said, Let me not see their faces. So his host slew them. Now when Demetrius was set upon the throne of his kingdom, there were unto him all the wicked and unrighteous men of Israel, having Alchemists, who was desirous to be priest. And for their captain, they had an accursed of the people. They accursed the people to the king, saying, Yehuda and his brethren have slain all your friends, and driven us out of our own land. Now therefore send some men whom you trust, and let them go and see the havoc he has made among us, and in the king's land, and let him punish them with all the aid with them. Then the king chose Bacchus, a friend of the king, who ruled beyond the flood, and who was a great man in the kingdom, and faithful to the king. And he was sent with the wicked Alchemist, who was made high priest, and commanded that he should take vengeance on the children of Israel. So they departed and went with great power into the land of Yehuda, where they sent messengers to Yehuda and his brother with peaceable words deceitfully. It sounds like what the Islam does, right? And so they sent messengers to Yehuda with his brother, peaceable words, deceitful, and they gave no heed to their words, for they saw they come with great power, and they did there assemble unto Alchemists and Bacchides, a company of scribes, to require justice. Now the Hasidians were the first among the children of Israel that sought peace with them, and they, one that is a priest of the seed of Aaron, is come with his army, and he will do us no wrong. So he spoke unto them peacefully, and swore unto them, saying, We will procure to harm neither you nor your friends. Whereupon they believed him. Howbeit he took them 80 men, and slew them one day in the city, according to the words which he wrote. The flesh of your Kodashim have they cast out, and their blood have they shed around about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them. Wherefore the fear and the dread of them that fell upon the people, who said, There is neither truth nor righteousness in them. For they have broken the covenant and the oath they had made. And after them removed Bacchides from Jerusalem, and he pitched his tent in Besra, where he sent and took many of them men that had forsaken him, and certain of the people also that when he had slain of them, he cast them into the great pit. Then committed he the country to Alchemists, and left him a power to aid him. So Bacchides went to the king, but Alchemists contended for the high priesthood, and unto him resorted all such as troubled the people, who, after they had gotten to the land of Yehuda, and to the power, did much hurt in Israel. Now when Yehuda did saw the mischief that Alchemist and his company had done among Israel, even above the heathen, he went out into the coast of Yehuda round about, and took vengeance of them. They had revolted from him, and so they dared no more to go forth into the country. On the other side, when Alchemists saw that Yehuda and his company had gotten the upper hand, and he knew that it was not able to abide their force, he went again to the king, and said all the worst of them that he could. Then the king sent Nicanor, one of his honorable princes, a man that bore deadly hate unto Israel, with commandment to destroy the people. So Nicanor came into Jerusalem with a great force, and sent unto Yehuda and his brethren deceitfully with friendly words, saying, Let there be no battle between you and I, for I will come with a few men, that I may see you in peace. He came therefore to Yehuda, and they saluted one another peacefully. Howbeit the armies that were prepared to take away Yehuda by violence, which thing after it was known to Yehuda, to wit, he came unto him with deceit, and was sore afraid of him, that he would see his face no more. Nicanor also, when he saw that his counsel was discovered, went out to fight against Yehuda beside Caphar Solama, where there was the slain of Nicanor's side about 5,000 men, and the rest fled into the city of David. And after this went Nicanor to the Mount Zion, where he came out of the sanctuary certain of the priests and certain of the elders of the people, to salute him peacefully, and to show him the burnt sacrifice that was offered for the king. And he mocked him, and he laughed at him, and he abused him shamefully, and he spoke proudly. And he swore in his wrath, saying, Unless Yehuda and his host now be delivered into my hands, if ever I come again in safety, I will burn up this house. And with that he went out with great rage. The priest entered in and stood there before the altar of the temple, weeping and saying, You, O Yehuda, did choose this house to be called by your name, and to be a house of prayer and petition for your people. Be avenged of this man and his host, and let all fall by the sword. Remember their blasphemies, and suffer them to continue no longer. So Nicanor went out of Jerusalem, and pitched his tent in Bet Coron, and where a host of Syria met him. But Yehuda pitched in Hashdasha with 3,000 men, and there he prayed, saying, O Yehuda, when they that were sent out from the king of Assyrians blasphemed, your angel went out and smote 100,000 and 5,000 of them. Even so destroy this host before us this day, that the rest may know that he has spoken blasphemy against your sanctuary, and judge him according to his wickedness. So the 13th day of the month of Adar, the host joined battle, but Nicanor's host was discomforted, and himself was first slain in the battle. And when Nicanor's host saw that he was slain, they cast away their weapons and fled, and they pursued after them in a day's journey from Hashdasha to Gesam, sound the alarm after them with their shofars. Whereupon they came forth out of the towns of Yehuda round about, and closed them in, and so they, turning back upon, pursued them, were all slain with sword, and not one of them was left. Afterwards they took the spoils and the prey, and smote off Nicanor's head and his right hand, and it stretched out so proudly. And he brought them away and hanged them up toward Jerusalem. For this cause the people rejoiced greatly. They kept that day a day of great gladness. Moreover, they ordained to keep yearly this day, being the 30th of Adar, the 13th of Adar. Thus the land of Yehuda was in rest a little while. Chapter 8. Now Yehuda hath heard of Romaim, which they were mighty and valiant men, such that would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and having a league of amity with all that came unto them, and they were great men of valor. And it was told of them also their wars and their noble acts, and they had done among the Galatium, the Galatium, and they had conquered them and brought them under tribute, that they had done in the country of Spain, for the winning of the mines of silver and gold which was there. and by their policy and patience they had conquered all of that place. And there were very far from them, and the kings also that came against them from the uttermost part of the earth, till they had discomforted them, and given them great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year. Besides this, they had discomforted in battle Philip and Perseus, king of Kittim. With others they had lifted themselves against them, had overcome them. How also Antiochus, the great king of Asia, had came against them in battle, having 120 elephants with horsemen and chariots, and with a very great army, was discomforted by them. And how they took him alive, and coveted that he took him alive, and coveted that he and such as reigned after him should pay a great tribute, and give hostage and give hostages that they were agreed upon. And the country of India and Madai and Ludi and the goodliest countries which they took of him, and gave him King Eumenes. Moreover, the Yavanim had determined to come and destroy them, and they, having knowledge thereof, sent against them a certain captain, with fighting with them, slew many of them, and carried away captives their women and children, and spoiled them, and took possessions of their land, and pulled down their strongholds, and brought them to their servants this day. And it was told besides how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all the kingdoms and isles at any time resisted them. But they kept their friends, and such as relied upon them they kept amity, and they had conquered kingdoms both far and nigh, inasmuch as all that they had heard of their name was afraid of them. Also that whom they would help into a kingdom those reign, and those whom again would they displace. Finally they were greatly exalted. Yet for all this none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple, to be magnified thereof. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, which 320 men sat counsel daily, consulting always for the people, to the end that they might be well ordained. And they that were committed to their government, to one man every year, who ruled over all their country, and that were obedient to that one, and there was neither envy nor emulation among them. In consideration of these things, Yehuda chose Epolamus, the son of Yochanan, the son of Kotz, and Yacham, the son of Eleazar, and sent him to Rome to make a league and amity and a confederacy with them, and entreat them that they would take the yoke for them. But they saw the kingdom of Yavanim did oppress Israel with servitude. And they went therefore to Rome, which was a great journey, and they came unto the Senate, where they spoke and said, Yehuda make where they spoke and said, Yehuda Maccabee and his brethren and the people of Yehudim have sent us unto you to make a confederacy and peace with you, that we might be registered your confederates and friends. So that matter pleased the Roman well, and this is the copy of the Sefer which the Senate wrote back, and again in the tables of brass, and sent to Jerusalem, that they might have them a memorial of peace and confederacy. Here you go. Is this the 7-year peace deal set up here in Maccabees? It sounds like it. They set up a peace agreement, a confederacy with Rome. In the same manner also, if war come first upon the nation of Yehuda, the Romaim, the Romans, shall help them with all their heart, according as the time shall be appointed them. Neither shall victuals be given to them that take a part against them, or weapons, or money, or ships, as it seemed good to the Romadim, but they shall keep their covenants, and that without deceit. According to these articles did the Romanim make a covenant, and made a covenant of peace with the Yehudim. Howbeit hereafter one party to one another shall think it to meet and add to diminish anything, they do it in their pleasures. And wheresoever they shall add or take away shall be ratified. And as touching the evils of Demetrius does to the Yehudim, we have written unto him, saying, wherefore make your yoke heavy upon your friends and confederates for Yehudim. If therefore they complain any more against you, we will do them justice and fight with you by sea and by land. Chapter 9. Furthermore, when Demetrius heard that Nicanor and his host were slain in battle, he sent Bacchides and Alchemus into the land of Yehuda for a second time, and with them the chief strength of his host, who went forth by the way of Leeds to Gilgal, and pitched tents before Masaloth, which is an Arbel. And after they had won it, they slew much people. Also the first month of the 152nd they encamped before Jerusalem, before whence they removed, and went to Berea with 20,000 footmen and 2,000 horsemen. Now Yehuda had pitched his tent in Eliah, and 3,000 chosen men with him, who seeing the multitude of another army, So seeing the multitude of another army, he so great were sore afraid. Whereupon many conveyed themselves out of the host, inasmuch as they abode of them, no more but 800 men. When Yehuda therefore saw that his host slipped away, and that the battle pressed upon him, he was so troubled in his mind and is much distressed that he had no time to gather them together. Nevertheless, unto them that remained he said, let us arise and go up against our enemies, if peradventure we may be able to fight with them. But they dissuaded him, saying, we shall never be able. Let us now rather save ourselves, and hereafter we will return with our brethren and fight against them, for we are few. And then Yehuda said, far be it that I should do this thing and flee away from them. If our time has come, let us die manfully for our brethren. He's dying for his faith here. And let us not stain our honor. That the host of Bacchides removed out of their tents and stood over against them, their horsemen being divided into two troops, and their slingers and their archers going forth to the host that they marched into, and forward were all mighty men. I wonder if that means giants when he talks about these mighty men of valor. As for Bacchides, he was in the right wing, so the host drew near on the two parts and sounded their shofars. They also of Yehuda's side, even they sounded their shofars also, so that the earth shook at the noise of their armies, and the battle continued from morning till night. Now when Yehuda perceived that Bacchides and the strength of his army were on the right side, he took them all, the hardy men, who discomforted the right wing, and pursued them unto the Mount Ashdod. And when they had left the left wing saw that they'd done to the right wing, they were discomforted and followed upon Yehuda and those that were with him hard at the heels from behind. Whereupon there was a sore battle, inasmuch as many were slain in both parts. Yehuda was also killed, and the remnant fell. Then Jonathan and Shimon took Yehuda, their brother, and buried him in the sepulchre of his father in Modim. And moreover, they will bewail him. And all Israel made great lamentation for him, and they mourned many days, saying, How is this valiant man fallen, and that delivered Israel? As for the other things concerning Yehuda and his wars, and the noble acts, and all that he did with his greatness, they are not written, for they were very, very many. Now after the death of Yehuda, the wicked had begun to put forth their heads in all the coast of Israel, and they arose upon such as wrought iniquity in those days, as also the great famine, and reason whereupon the country revolted and went with them. When Maccabees chose the wicked men to make lords of the country, and made inquiry of the search for Yehuda's friends, and brought them to Maccabees, who took vengeance upon them, and used them despitefully. For there was a great affliction in Israel, like thereof, as not since at a time as the prophet was seen among them. For this cause Yehuda's friends came together, and said unto Jonathan, Since your brother Yehuda died, we have no man like him to go forth against our enemies, and Maccabees, and against them of our nation that are adversaries to us. Now therefore we have chosen you this day to be our prince and our captain in his stead, and you may fight our battles. Upon this Jonathan took the governance upon him at that time, and rose up instead of his brother Yehuda. But then Maccabees got knowledge therefore, and he sought to slay him. Then Jonathan and Shimon his brother, and all that were with him, perceiving that, fled into the wilderness of Tekoa, and pitched their tents by the waters of the pool of Ashfar, which Maccabees understood. He came near to Jordan, and all his host upon the Shabbat. Now Jonathan sent his brother Yochanan, a captain of the people, to pray his friends at Nabarithim, that they might leave with them their carriage, which was much. But the children of Jambri came out of Medaba, and took Yochanan and all that he had, and went their way with it. And as that the word came to Jonathan and Shimon his brother, that the children of Jambri made a great marriage, and a great bringing of his bride Nebatha with a great train, as being the daughter of the great princes of Canaan. Therefore they remembered Yochanan and their brother, and went up and hid themselves under the covert of the mountain. And they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, there was much ado, and a great carriage with the bridegroom came forth, and his friends and his brethren. How about that? A mentioning of a bridegroom going forth in this reading. And his brethren to meet with them with drums, instruments of music, and many weapons. And then Jonathan and they that were with him rose up against them from the place where they had lay in ambush, and made a slaughter of them inasmuch of sword. And they fell down many dead, and the remnant fled into the mountains. And that's not a really good wedding there, huh? So they're having a wedding, and Jonathan sets up an ambush for them. Thus the marriage returned into a mourning, and the noise of their melody into lamentation. And when they had avenged fully the blood of their brother, they turned again to the marsh of Jordan. Now where Maccabees heard, therefore, he came on the Shabbat unto the banks of Jordan with a great power. Then Jonathan said to his company, let us go up now and fight for our lives, for it stands not with us today, but is in past time. For behold, the battle is before us and behind us, and the water of the Jordan on this side and on that side, the marsh likewise and wood. Neither is there a place for us to turn aside. Wherefore cry ye now unto heaven, that ye may be delivered from the hand of your enemies. When they had joined the battle, and Jonathan stretched forth his hand to smite Maccabees, but he turned back from him. Then Jonathan and they that were with him leapt into the Jordan, and swam over to the other bank. Howbeit the others passed not over the Jordan unto them. So there were slain of Maccabees on the side of on Maccabees' side that day about 1,000 men. Afterward returned Maccabees to Jerusalem, and repaired the strong cities in Yehudah, and the fort in Jericho, and Yemaim, and Beth Horon, and Bethel, and Timnah, and Pharaoh-Noni, and Taberah. These did the strengthen with high walls, with gates and with bars, and with them he set up a garrison, that they may work malice upon Israel. And he fortified the city Bethsura and Gazam and the tower, and put forces in them, and provision and victuals. Besides, he took the chief men's stone of the country for hostages, and he took the chief men's sons of the country up for hostages, and put them into a tower of Jerusalem to be kept. Moreover, in 153rd year, in the second month, Alchemists commanded the wall of the inner court of the sanctuary should be pulled down. And he pulled down also the works of the prophets. And he began to pull down. Even at that time was Alchemist plagued, and his enterprises hindered, for his mouth was stopped, and he was taken with palsy, so that he could no more speak anything nor give order concerning his house. So Alchemist died at that time with great torment. Now when Maccabees saw that Alchemist was dead, he returned to the king, whereupon the land of Yehudah was in rest 2 years. And all the wicked men held counsel, saying, behold, Jonathan and his company are at ease, and dwell without care. Now therefore we will bring Maccabees hither, who shall take them in one night. So they went and consulted with him, and removed him, and came with a great host, and sent letters privately to his adherents in Yehudah, and that they should take Jonathan and those that were with him. Howbeit he could not, because their counsel was known to them. Wherefore they took of the men of the country, and were authors of that mischief, about 50 persons, and he slew them. Afterward Jonathan and Shimon and they that were with him got away to Bethshean, and they which is in the wilderness, and they repaired the decays thereof, and made it strong. Which thing Maccabees knew, he gathered together all his host, and went and sent word to them that were in Yehudah. And he went, and when he had laid siege against Bethshean, and they fought against a long season, and made engines of war. But Jonathan left his brother Shimon in the city, and went forth himself into the country, and with a certain number he went forth. And he smote Odamerah and his brother, and the children of Pesharon, and their tent. And they began to smite them, and came up with his forces. Shimon and his company went out of the city, and burned up the engines of war, and fought against Maccabees, who was discomforted by them, and he was afflicted, and was afflicted him sore, for his counsel and travail was in vain. Wherefore he was very much wroth at the wicked men which had given him counsel to come into the country, inasmuch as he slew many of them, and he purposed to return into his own country. whereof when Jonathan had knowledge, he sent ambassadors unto him to the end he should make peace with him, and deliver him the prisoners. Which thing he accepted, and according to his demands, and swore to him that he would never do harm all the days of his life. When therefore he had restored to him the prisoners which were taken aforetime out of the land of Yehudah, and he returned and went his way into his own land, neither came he any more to their borders. Thus the sword ceased from Israel, but Jonathan dwelt in Michmash, and began to govern the people, and he destroyed the wicked man out of Israel. And folks, that takes us through chapter 9. We will pick up with chapter 10 in the next video that we do on the Maccabees. So until then, shalom, and may Yahuwah bless you. And by the way, make sure you get you a lamp. They're in. If you didn't see the last video I made, the lamps are in, and they are very beautiful. So get yours now and support the ministry. And to those that do support this ministry, I appreciate you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that. Shalom, and may Yeshua bless you.